Alright, on this video we're going to be determining the equation of a parabola. So this is the graph that we are given, right? So the first thing that I notice is the fact that here at 3, this is my x-intercept. This is the x-axis. This is the y-axis. So this is my y-intercept. I made a mistake. I misspoke. This is a y-intercept because it's found on the y-axis. And what do I know about the y-intercept? I know that my x is equal to 0. Meaning to say, for those who are thinking that, oh, I've been given one coordinate only, that's not true. Here your y coordinate is 3 and your x coordinate is 0, like that. And then here I'm given another point. Now, if I'm having this y-intercept and they've asked me to determine the equation, what do? I'm going to be using this formula. We have two formulas to determine the equation, so I'm starting out with this one. Now, I know that the y-intercept on the formula is represented by the letter q. So in other words, now I've got y is equals to ax squared plus 3. Now, what happens? Here now I'm going to be substituting. Here where there is y, I've got another point here on the graph. So where there is y, I will substitute for 7 is equal to a, open bracket, then they want x. So where I got the y, the x is 2. So now I come here and I place number 2, then I say squared plus 3. From there I'm solving for a. Now I've got 7 is equals to 2 squared gives me 4, so I've got 4a plus 3. Now these two, they are like terms, so I transpose. Now I say 7 minus 3 is equal to 4a, and 7 minus 3 is equal to what? 4. So I say 4 is equals to 4a, and then I divide by the coefficient 4. 4 divided by 4, it's 1. 1 times this a is equal to a. So I conclude that therefore a is equal to 4 into 4, it's 1. 4 into 4, it's 1. So a is equals to 1. Now, remember, they didn't say calculate for a. They said that we must determine the what? The equation for this particular parabola. So now I have found 1. Remember, my equation is what? Y is equals to ax squared plus q. Now I found that a is equal to 1. And remember what I told you from the previous videos, when you have got a which is more than 0, when your a is more than 0, you have a concave. And you can see that we're having a concave, the smiley face. Now that we know a, what do? Now that we know that we have got a, what we are now going to do is to determine the equation. Remember what is being needed. From this y is equals to ax squared plus q, we need to find a and what? And q. Now we found a, so we now say y is equal to 1 multiplied by what? 1 multiplied by x squared plus the q. We found that the y-intercept is what? 3. So we say y is equals to 1 multiplied by x squared gives us x squared plus 3. And just like that, we've determined the what? The equation for this particular graph, right? Y is equals to x squared plus 3. Hopefully it's easy for everyone to understand. In this scenario, we are now having what? A different graph here, and we're still being asked to determine the equation. However, observe one thing which we have been given. We've been given 3 points on this graph. Where are the 3 points? Check. Here we're given -2 here, point number 1. Point number 2 here, it's x is equals to 1 and y is equals to 6, which is here. And point number 3 is here. Now, what are these -2 and +2? This is what we call what? This is what we call the x-intercept. And what do we know about the x-intercept? We know that at the x-intercept, y is equal to 0. So in other words, the coordinates for this part is what? Your x is -2 and your y is 0. And here your x is equals to 2 and your y is equals to 0. Fun fact about the parabola, right? We've got what is called an axis of symmetry. The axis of symmetry is what? This is, observe here, these arcs which we have here, right? Now, what happens? The distance from our x-axis or our y-axis to this arc and the distance from this y-axis here to this arc, they are equal. So meaning to say that on this particular parabola in grade 10, your axis of symmetry is always going to be here, where I'm marking with in broken lines here, where y is equal to 0 if you're asked for the axis of symmetry. Why is y always going to be equal to 0 for the axis of symmetry in grade 10? The reason is that your graph does not move to the left or to the right. It remains here. What your graph does, what your parabola does, is that it moves up or down. That's what it does. Okay, now we are going to be using the x-intercept form in order for us to determine the equation. And the formula for that says what? Y is equals to a open bracket x minus x1 close bracket. This x1 is the smaller x-intercept, then x minus x2, which is the second, the bigger x-intercept. So if we come to our graph here, what is our smaller x-intercept between -2 and +2? Obviously, -2 is smaller than +2. So in other words, we are now saying that we have got what? Y is equals to a open bracket x minus, then my smaller x-intercept is -2, so I say -2 here, and then I say x minus my bigger x-intercept is 2, so I say minus 2 like this. Then from there I say y is equal to a. I need to solve here the brackets here, so now I say x, then negative multiplied by negative, it gives me a positive. So now I've got a +2 close bracket and x minus 2. I'm not yet done. Now the second part, what do I need to fill out? I need to fill out the y and this x. What do I do? The reason why I was given this point, this one is the x and this 6 is the y. So I need to substitute it into the equation. Where there is y, I will fill out 6, and where there is x, I will fill out 1. So now here I go. I'm now replacing y with 6, which is equals to a, open bracket, our x is 1 plus 2, and another 1 minus 2. Alright, from there now I need to solve here. So now I say 6 is equals to a, open bracket, 1 plus 2 gives me 3, and 1 minus 2 gives me -1. So I've got -1 here. Now, when I say positive times negative, I get a negative. So I've got a negative here. 3 times 1 is equals to 3. And remember, this is a, not 9. My a looks like a 9. So it's a is equals to 6. So in this particular case, we are working to find a. Now we divide by -3 and -3. And negative divided by negative, it gives us a what? It gives us a positive. So 3 divided by 3, it's a. So therefore we say a is equal to positive divided by a negative, it gives us a negative. We've got a negative, and 6 divided by 3 gives you 2. So our a is a -2. Now let's go back to the theory that I taught you on the earlier videos. On the earlier videos, I said that to you, when your a is less than what? 0. It gives you a graph which we call a convex, which is also known as a set face. And here at the top, it will be having the turning point, which we call the maximum value. And if you observe this graph, you can see that this is a convex. And at this point here, at the y-intercept here, this is where you find the what? Where you find your maximum value. But back to the what we have here, what we've been given. we have found that our a is equals to negative 2. So what does that mean? It means that here on our equation so far, what we have here is the fact that we have got y is equal to, remember we had said y is equals to a open bracket x minus x1 and x minus x2 here. So we have found a here that it's negative 2. So now we're saying, in other words, we've got y which is equals to negative 2 open bracket x minus x1 and x minus x2. So now we need to determine the equation, because we haven't determined the equation. We only managed to find what? We only managed to find a. And in order for us to find the equation, now we say y is equals to negative 2. Then we open the bracket. Now we know that we must put the what? The x-intercept, which is smaller. But we don't have to come and repeat writing this negative 2. What do we do? Remember, when we put the negative 2, we multiply this negative and that negative, and we found a positive here. So it was x plus 2. So here now we come and we write x plus 2. And there we had x minus x2, which was x minus 2 here. So we write x minus 2 like that. Y is equal to, then remember brackets, they multiply each other. So I'm going to rewrite this negative 2. Then I say x times x, which gives me x squared. So I write x squared here. Positive times negative, that's a negative. 2 multiplied by x, that's 2x. Positive and positive, that's a positive. And 2 multiplied by x, that's 2x. Positive and negative, that's a negative. 2 times 2, that's a 4. Now we say y is equal to negative 2 open bracket x squared, because it doesn't have a like term. Now negative 2x and positive 2x, they are like terms and they cancel each other. So we have got 0 here. Minus what? Minus 4 like this. Now we multiply with this one. Now we say therefore y is equals to negative times positive, it's a negative. 2 times x squared, it's 2x squared. Negative times negative, that's a positive. And 2 times 4 is equals to 8. So our final answer is equals to y is minus 2x squared plus 8. But just to recap on something, if what I did here of saying x plus 2, this step may be confusing where I came to this step, you could also have written it like this. Remember, we said y is equals to a open bracket x minus x1 and x minus x2. So you could have said we found that a is equals to negative 2. So you say y is equals to negative 2 open bracket x minus x1 and x minus x2 like that. And here where there is a smaller negative x-intercept, we found that it's negative 2. So you could have written it like this: y is equals to negative 2 open bracket x minus open bracket negative 2 like that, close bracket, and x minus, here it's a positive 2, so we place the positive 2 like that. You won't be punished. It just takes a little bit longer for you to solve, but the answer will still be the same. So we say y is equals to negative 2. Then now we say negative times negative, which is a positive. Now we've got x plus 2 and x minus 2. Y is equals to negative 2. Then we go through the entire process that we went through here, right? So x times x, that's x squared. Positive times negative, that's a negative. 2x positive times positive, that's a positive. 2x positive and negative, that's a negative. 2 times 2, that's 4. Then y is equals to negative 2 open bracket. We have x squared. This negative and positive, and they are equal. These two, they cancel. We are left with negative 4. Then you say therefore your y is equal to negative 2 multiplied by a positive, it's a negative. Negative, this 2 multiplied by x squared, now it's 2x squared. Negative times negative, that's a positive, and 2 times 4, that's 8. We got y is equals to negative 2x squared plus 8. And earlier on, we got y is equals to negative 2x squared plus 8. This method, I was doing it and I understand it because I was saving time. So if for some reason you do not understand it, you are always welcome to write it like this, and then you get your 4 marks, right? So on the next graph, what I'm going to be doing is teaching you to say that when they say sketch the graph of a parabola, I'll be teaching you what are the things that you need to put on the sketch of a parabola. If you found this video to be helpful, please do consider to subscribe, share, like, and comment. Till we meet next time, cheers.